I Hate the News is the weekly news bulletin from I Hate Politics podcast, a show about a human activity we love to hate. I am Sunil Dasgupta. The week of August 6th, 2024, we turn over most of this episode to community voices that speak directly and indirectly to Fortune magazine's recent determination that Silver Spring is the best place to live in all of the United States. This comes at a time when Silver Spring and Montgomery County have seen a spate of criticism from public safety to business climate. Meanwhile, Wallet Hub, another prolific rank maker, says that Maryland has the third best public education system in the country. We love rankings when we come out on top, and we call them baloney when we don't. Neither Fortune nor Wallet Hub are transparent about their methods, so it's really hard to replicate or validate their work. But because they have reach, a big audience which reads and repeats their claims, they nevertheless have influence. The interviews for this episode range from repost to community building. And we have widened the discussion from Silver Spring, a vast unincorporated segment on the east of Montgomery County, to the county as a whole. Stay with us.
When the door swings open and they're free to go, they'll be stuck outside with a cold wind blowing and a rumbling in their gut. Do you love me? I need to know for sure, 'cause I'm dying out here waiting for the cure. Do you love me? Do you remember my name since the circus left town? Things just aren't the same.
I Hate Politics is brought to you by UMBC's Political Science Program. If your goal is to make a meaningful impact with a career in local, state, or federal government, discover what this degree can do for you. Learn more at shadygrove.umbc.edu.
I Hate Politics is a podcast about our neighborhoods, workplaces, schools and streets, and our local governments as they function in diverse and democratic societies. This means our politics are messy, dirty, sometimes corrupt, with often self-serving politicians. But no matter how much we may hate politics, we are never exempt from it, even when we refuse to participate. In fact, the purpose of politics is to keep society functioning precisely when we don't agree with each other, like now. Music for this episode comes from the Silver Spring Power Pop Band, the Airport 77s, Andy Sullivan on vocals and guitar, Chuck Dolan on bass, and John Kelly on drums. The songs come from their album, We Realize You Have a Choice. We start with news of the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments putting the region on drought watch following persistent dry spell this spring and summer. On July 3rd, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, which runs the Washington Aqueduct, where Washington, D.C. and Arlington County get their piped water from, issued a brief boil advisory because of a combination of algae and low water pressure. The advisory was lifted quickly after some extra chemical treatment and filtration, but now the regional government compact is asking 6 million residents to voluntarily reduce watering lawns and gardens, choose car wash companies which recycle water, even reduce the length of showers, and turn off the faucet while you brush your teeth. This is exceptional for a region that sits astride two river basins. Montgomery County and especially Silver Spring based local leaders have been ecstatic about being named Fortune magazine's #1 place to live in the country. Not everyone is convinced that Montgomery County, of which Silver Spring is a big, important, and growingly powerful part, is in fact the best place to live in the United States.
I'm Laurie Halverson. I've lived here in Montgomery County for 24 years now in Potomac, and I have 2 sons who went to Montgomery County Public Schools, and now they're grown up. And I used to be involved in the PTA and for many years, so I got involved in the community and then got involved with politics, and I'm currently on the Central Committee for Montgomery County GOP.
You wrote a tweet recently criticizing the tax increase on your property.
My property tax bill in Montgomery County, Maryland went up by $1,000. I pay $11,000 a year now. If I moved to North Carolina, I can buy a similar home for much less and would pay 1/3 of my current property tax bill. Montgomery County is pushing me out of here.
If you pay $11,000 in taxes, what is your home worth?
The value it says on my property tax bill says $975,933. But I know I can probably get more than that.
The tax rate in the county is roughly 1%.
It is 1.0392% in 2024. And the total with the state is, for me, is 1.1512.
Given that rate, a $1,000 increase in your taxes implies roughly your property value went up by $100,000.
How could it really go up by that much in 1 year?
But it did.
I don't understand. My property taxes went up 10% in 1 year. That's a shock to me. And I'm sure a lot of other people are feeling the same thing because I had 6,000 views on my tweet so far.
Because your home value is also increasing at the same time. Is that a bad deal?
When you pay property tax, you expect to see some value out of that tax, right? But what has really changed in the value of what I'm receiving as a Montgomery County resident? I am getting worse education here. We used to be #1 in education in Maryland. When I moved here, I'm not seeing anything improving. I'm seeing it getting worse. We have more people coming into our county who can't afford to, who are here illegally, and we're paying for them. It's costing us more.
If the quality of life in Montgomery County is going down, as you described.
Yes, my quality of life is going down.
Why is the value of your home going up?
Maybe because government is getting bigger and bigger, and they're an outlier compared to the rest of the nation. I don't know. I think it's possible that they just overinflated the values of these homes. In my mind, I'm thinking, well, hey, if you want to move to Potomac, I might not be here much longer. So take my house, and I'll be able to enjoy a profit. But I don't see why I should continue to see my county's services drop in value over time and continue. Why do I want to continue staying here? I have no incentive anymore to stay here, other than I have friends and I like my medical care. That's the only reason I would stay here. It's not just the money either. I left my church, and I know a number of Republicans who've left their church. I used to go to Faith United Methodist Church in Rockville. I was there for many years. I was very active. I taught Sunday schools. I was on the board of the preschool. I led a vacation Bible school there for, that was a really lot of work. I mean, I spent a lot of time in that church, and I used to feel welcome there, but it totally turned very, very political I knew that we had a lot of liberal members, but we all got along great until I would say the Trump started becoming president, and then there were issues with the Methodist Church. The Methodist Church is having some real issues with LGBTQ policies in their church.
Up until a point, you were okay with it. What triggered your departure?
It started when I noticed that the American flag disappeared from the pulpit, and then one time the interim pastor was upset about what was happening within the Methodist Church, with all the policies that were changing. And she said she could no longer pledge allegiance to the flag in her sermon. And my whole body just changed. I was like, oh my God, should I walk out? Because I could not support that. And it wasn't just what she said. It said she got a standing ovation after her sermon. And I knew that I no longer belonged there.
The county council or Mark Elrich, they don't have anything to do with this, right?
Yeah, they do. Government leads the way in the way things are talked about. When liberals say things like, "Oh, you MAGA extremists," or blah 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 blah, we're not MAGA extremists. We are people who think in conservative ways. We have different points of view, but in Montgomery County, that's considered extremist, and it's something that it adds to the reason that my property taxes went up by $1,000, up 10%, and that's just it's like the icing on the cake that says, we don't want you here. And I feel like I'm being pushed out of the county. And I think that's what they want.
Laurie Halverson, good luck with the decision.
Thank you. And thanks for the exciting conversation.
From a political opponent of the country's predominantly Democratic leadership to a PTA mom in Germantown doing what PTA moms do, hold summer meetings to brainstorm how to improve schools.
I'm Cara Fletcher. I am associated with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Middle School and also Seneca Valley High School. My children also went through Waters Landing Elementary School. I'm a delegate for MCC-PTA and used to be their special ed chair position. I had resigned from that a year or so ago.
Montgomery County Council of PTAs, together with the Montgomery County Board of Education, organizes summer meetings, and you were at the one at Seneca Valley High School recently. What did you talk about?
A lot of schools, as you know, are locking bathrooms because of all the issues happening inside, and all of us kind of expressing our concern for that, as well as what can be done so that those can be open. We also talked about students having access to things like toilet paper and paper towels that seem to fly off the shelves for some reason in the bathrooms in schools. Outside of school, we talked about student safety and crosswalks, adding more crosswalks and crossing guards for some areas that have that need. And as well as some areas, they have increased the boundary from 1 mile to 1.5 miles, I believe, for walkers. And so some of these walkers in certain areas don't have access to sidewalks, and they are walking down main roads such as 355 to get to school. And in the winter and stuff like that, it's super dark in the morning. And so we were trying to see if they can't maybe reevaluate that or see what they can do to have those things put in like sidewalks so that they can get to school safely.
Boundaries are always fun. They inspire a lot of emotion. What is the discussion around that?
It was brought to my attention at that meeting that they do not re-boundary elementary school students, only middle and high school students. Personally, as a parent, I think middle and high school is a very difficult age. Well, if you move an 8th grader to a brand new school, they're finishing their last year in this brand new school. It's a huge adjustment. They already have 1,000 things they're battling with puberty and hormones and all that fun stuff, right? And then turn around the next year, they're into another new school. Personally, I don't know that that's the best time to be switching people after they've had years of the same community friends and going to the same schools with people together. I don't know if it would be a possibility or an idea to kind of allow somewhat of a quote open enrollment end quote, where if there were students that were locally around that had wanted to switch to that new school. Families need preparation. They should know earlier that they are going to be going to a different school than some of their peers. This is where you're going to go.
You said community engagement. What about community engagement were you talking about?
Communities actually getting together, like Seneca Valley just did a community block party for all the local schools, whether it's high school, middle school, elementary school, where some families don't have transportation. So we talked about different things about, is there a way to help provide some transportation for those families?
I've always wondered what percentage of families don't attend because of transportation and other related issues, and what percentage of families don't attend because they're just simply not interested or don't find value.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I've always, maybe it's an assumption and maybe I'm wrong for assuming, but I've assumed a lot more of it is a collection of transportation issues, finances, because we live in an area where we have a lot of like farms families.
I have seen parents who don't go to PTA meetings or don't go to these things. They will take their child 2 hours into Virginia to play a soccer game. I mean, and they do it regularly. They do it on a weekday, not just on a weekend day. So I think the value proposition to me is much stronger.
Maybe it's also, some families don't understand the value of their input. Look, we all have different things we want to see change in different schools, no matter what school you're in, no matter what grade level your child is in. There are things that we all want to see change. But how can the PTA help advocate for that for you and work with the school and the county and to make all those things happen if you're not a part of it?
Cara Fletcher, thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And finally, a look into neighborliness, a point made by the Fortune magazine writers, with Eric Weissman from Takoma Park, adjacent to Silver Spring, who now likes to organize live music concerts in his beautiful backyard.
A year ago, I was looking through listserv or the Takoma Park Facebook page, and I saw a notice for something called a Group Muse concert that was happening in nearby DC. Group Muse is a website that allows musicians and venues to get connected so that someone who plays music has a place to play in someone's house. Then it also allows people in the community to see that there's a concert happening somewhere near them, and then they can go online and book a spot. So I saw a note about a concert through Group Muse happening in nearby Northwest DC, and I signed up because it sounded interesting. And it just so happened that one of the musicians who was playing, because I talked to him, lived in Takoma Park, and I really liked the music, and I liked him. He was interesting. I learned just in conversation with him that he actually in the 1980s had lived in Santa Cruz, California, where I also lived in the 1980s as a college student. And I thought it would be really nice to do a concert like that in our backyard, my spouse and I, Joe. In Takoma Park. We have a nice fenced backyard. It's flat. It can sort of have an area set up for musicians and plenty of space for people to sit. Ideally, you want to be able to let people access your house to use a bathroom because it's your house. It's not a concert venue. There's not a public restroom. It's funny. I told my brother about it, and he asked me if I rented a porta potty. And then, as a host, it's sort of up to you how you do it. All you are obligated to do as a host is provide a place for people to sit, which can consist of chairs, or they even recommend just throwing some blankets on the ground, and providing a place for the musicians to set up, and allowing people to come to wherever the space is at your house to listen to the music. Group Muse asks you to kind of give a little spiel about Group Muse where you stand up and talk about it. I felt a little bit like I was part of a multi-level marketing scheme. So we had a musician, his name is John Warren, and he has a musical partner named Bruno. Bruno is a percussionist. John plays guitar. It is amplified, but not loud. And they just did wonderful music. And what I loved about it was the setting in my backyard felt so nice. It's covered with leafy big trees overhead and grass underneath. And, both concerts that I did started when it was still a little light out, but the sun set while the concert went on. And there's some lights in my backyard, and it just ends up being a really nice event.
Group Muse is a very interesting platform that you've used. Is there a preference? Is this like more classical music?
My sense is that the most Group Muse performances lean on the folk and jazz side or the popular music side than a classical performance. But my understanding in looking at Group Muse performances is that it can be anything. So it's less about this type of music than that connection that people might make in having a venue and a host connect with a musician.
Tell me how you go about organizing a group muse event.
Go to the Group Muse website, register as a host in the venue. There are a number of survey questions that they ask about the space, indoor, outdoor, whether you have a piano in your house, number of people who you would have at your place, whether you have pets. And it definitely asks you if you already have a musician in mind and whether they're a Group Muse musician. Someone from Group Muse gets in touch with you and walks you through the process, talks about it with you. I think it's equal parts information exchange and equal parts kind of preparing you for what could happen.
How large can it be? Is it like how many will fit in your home, or?
That's really for you to decide. So, I selected the number 25, but my most recent concert had 40.
So how is the musician paid?
So the musicians are able to accept tips at the performance. I have to say, as the host, the most uncomfortable part of it is the financial transaction. There are a couple of ways that you get people to come to your Group Muse concert. So one way is you just post it to Group Muse, and people you've never seen or heard of in your life who live close enough by and are intrigued enough by the music that they decide to register to come, they come. So there were people who came to my house that night who I've never met or seen before, who were there for the concert. That was great. I love that aspect of it. But the majority of people who came were neighbors of mine who I knew, and I told them about it, and I texted them the link. I even made a little flyer that I kept handy, and I'd walk my dogs and hand people a little flyer. And then you might just invite friends. It feels a little funny to me to invite people to an event at my house because I host. I have people over for dinner. I have people over for a glass of wine, whatever. To invite people to my house and then to add that extra overlay that, by the way, there's a financial transaction, even though it's only $5. And then when I start to say to people, well, but it costs $5 to register, but these are professional musicians who are there, and it would be really great if you can to tip them. Like many other things, you get used to it with practice. It really was hard for me to do that the first time I did a Group Muse concert. The second time I did it, it was like I had no problem with that, or much less problem with that.
Eric Weissman, here's to more backyard concerts.
Thank you so much.
So there you are, 3 takes from the community about what it means to be a community. And in a way, a much more authentic way to understand who we are and who we live with than rank-ordered lists, whether they be of towns or schools. Don't forget, I Hate Politics is oral community history, and I hope we bring you that every week. That's all for this episode. Be sure to check out our feature interview series that comes out Friday mornings. I Hate Politics is produced by me, Sunil Dasgupta, and assistant producer, Adama Gay, with support from the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. I direct UMBC's political science program at the universities at Shady Grove in Montgomery County, where, among other things, we explore and learn about politics, government, and society close to home. Music for this episode comes from the Silver Spring Power Pop Band, the Airport 77s, Andy Sullivan on vocals and guitar, Chuck Dolan on bass, and John Kelly on drums. The songs come from their album, We Realize You Have a Choice.